Well, thank you guys for joining us. Welcome to this month's edition of our Health is Call. Today, health is purpose, right? You could fill in the blank with whatever you want. And we are super, super, super excited to be joined by Mark Griffin, who started and runs a company called Purpose Fused, whose job is really to help individuals, high achievers, and the like find their purpose professionally, personally, and throughout life. As you all know, we do these calls once a month where we interview experts from around the world. Mark comes to us from uh, Great Britain originally, but resides here in Colorado. And we do these calls because, as you know, our mission statement is to change one life so they can change many. And if we can change one life with this call tonight and with people watching the recording, and that has a ripple effect around the world, then we've succeeded. Really, our goal is to inspire personal responsibility in individuals for them to take control of their health and wellness, and again, have that ripple effect. So I don't love doing really, really, really long-winded intros. I mean, Mark, your resume speaks for itself, but please tell us a little bit more about yourself, about what you do, and after that, I'm just going to start peppering you with questions. I'm super excited to. You and I have had multiple conversations before, and I'm excited for the world to hear the content and the knowledge that you have to offer to them. It's nothing but valuable.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thanks so much for having me. I've enjoyed all the conversations we've had today. I've got to thank Todd Lancaster as well, who runs one of the great Vistage programs, who connected us. He's been a great connector, and you're a great connector. So I appreciate that. And yeah, if you ever want to see a long-winded resume, ask an English person to see their resume. They're like 6, 7 page things. Like they just wouldn't fly over here. You just over here is like
Noted.
a page of bullet points, isn't it? So anyway, so the elevator pitch, I suppose, it's not really a pitch, but Purpose Fused is an organization I set up about 3.5 years ago. But having been in the human performance and development space for 17 or so years now, after 9 years of investment banking, believe it or not, realizing that wasn't my purpose or my passion, even though I appreciated a lot of the people I worked with. I jumped off a cliff and set up a kids' sports non-profit to put sports into schools that just didn't have a lot of opportunities in New York City, in LA, and San Francisco. And rugby was the primary sport, which is the jersey behind me. And then after and during COVID, actually, realizing that now I have a 4-year-old and a nearly 2-year-old, and I kind of needed to start getting paid for doing this human performance and development work. So translated and flipped a lot of the stuff, which was all grounded in purpose and people's best self principles, about seeing the future differently, about setting meaningful goals, and going after those through meaningful experiences and meaningful relationships, so that they would have more happiness and more inspiration and more fulfillment in their life. And so hence the name Purpose Fused. Everything we do is grounded in purpose. We do a lot of work on helping people just really reframe their perspective to focus on what matters most, so they can unlock their potential and kind of live a life that they'd be really proud to live. So now working with leaders, doing executive coaching one-on-one, working with leadership teams, and even rolling out programs through organizations, different variations of that, to enable everybody to perform as their best authentic selves and learn that about each other, so they can all support each other in getting better. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's amazing. The world needs more. I think we're really good at setting goals and keeping ourselves busy, but I think a lot of times we forget our purpose. And sometimes the purpose is an externally derived one that's imposed on us versus an internally derived one that actually motivates us to go forward. So I'm super, like we said, we've had so many conversations about this. I'm super excited to share this with the world. You mentioned one word in kind of in the same breath as purpose. It's actually written on the banner behind you, and that was passion.
Mm.
Obviously, you have a passion around this. You have a passion for sport and human potential. Can you talk to me about why passion is one of the three words that make up the formula for purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you were to draw three circles that intersected, in the middle of those three circles is purpose, and the three circles each represent passion, impact, and application. And my definition of passion and purpose fused definition of passion might not just be what you might think of when people are like, what are you passionate about? We look at passion as a combination of things that you care about, things that you believe in, things that you may be good at, things that you enjoy, and things that energize you, right? So it's about energy, it's about leaning into gifts and talents. It will align to your values. Passions will tend to align to your values, but we'll put those into principles, right? In terms of behaviors, values, and action, things you're actually going to do. That's our definition of passion. And so when we're working with clients, not one of our exercises, and we've got like 24 kind of different digitized like reflection activities that we take people through over a series of weeks, that we then unpack with them. Not one of them is, hey, what are you passionate about? Yeah, I tell you what, if you ask people to put that in the chat, it's a pretty tough thing. Like they might come up with like the wife and the kids and maybe a sport or playing a musical instrument, but there's not usually a big long list. But when you start to unpack those things that I talked about, well, what are the things in life you really care about? Like, what are the things that really matter? What do you believe in? Like, what different things would you absolutely stand for? And if you don't understand, if you're not sure what those things are, think of the opposite. What things do you really detest, right? And then think of the opposite of that to get back to like the things you care about and the things you believe in. What energizes you? Most of us, if we took a few minutes to think about it, what things energize you? What things get you excited? When are you enthusiastic about something, or maybe even inspired about something, right? Well, okay, those things are relevant as well. And we usually have a reasonable view of things we're good at and things we're less good at, and things we enjoy. Now, I enjoy art. I used to love doing art at school. I'm absolutely rubbish at it, but I wish I did more of it. Right? It's something I enjoy. It's not necessarily always correlated to something I'm good at. Once you've got a picture of all those things, you've got a picture of our definition of purpose, and that fills up one of those circles.
I absolutely love that. I feel like, and I think you feel the same way just based on our conversations. Passion is one of these words, and there's probably a list of words, right? Work-life balance is probably one of them. Will, who's listening in the audience right now, him and I talk about trauma a lot, but not in the traditional way. But trauma is a word that gets thrown around a lot. Passion, I think, is 100% a word that gets thrown around a lot. And if you ask someone what they're passionate about, you get like a deer in headlights look, or you get the very traditional answers, my family, my work, maybe. I really like that when you try to find somebody's passion, you don't use the word passion, because there's a societal norm around it now. And I think what energizes you is such a interesting way to get there without actually leading it. It's a little bit more emoting. So I'm curious, obviously you're passionate about what you're doing, and or else you wouldn't have started a company around it. But if I were to meet you on the street, or we went out for coffee for a first meeting to get to know each other, and I asked Mark, what energizes you? What would you say? I'm really curious.
Okay, I've got an activity I'll offer up for folks to try, right? Which will get to
Yeah.
similar sort of thing, which is around one of the activities that we related to unpacking passion. And what I'll do is I'll answer the questions around that as to give an example. So the activity is called Driving Force. The activity takes you back to think of a time when you've been at your absolute best. Maybe you was performing as a college athlete. Maybe you were standing up and making a presentation. Maybe you were talking somebody off the ledge who's going through something really tough, whatever that might be. Sometimes they're super positive experiences. Sometimes in the moment they may not have been. It might have been overcoming a trauma, overcoming a challenge. But when you look back on it, you're like, wow, that was actually a best self moment because of the impact that it had. And what you do is there's two parts to it. First part is, what was it I was doing that made me think of this as a kind of a peak experience, if you like? And this is getting to the driving force element. What was it I was doing? So often verbs will kind of describe that. So these things for me align to my energy. Being enthusiastic, being engaging, being dynamic. Let's just say my role at the time is coaching kids, right? I'm coaching kids. I'm supporting, I'm challenging, I'm entertaining, I'm coordinating, I'm organizing, I'm facilitating kind of activity, like all those things, right? Well, those energize me. That in turn energizes the kids. So that's the first half of it, is instead of saying, hey, what's something you really enjoy doing that energizes you? Okay, coaching kids, it does. Well, what is it about that? What are you doing when you're coaching kids that helps you understand why that's energizing for you? And then the other part of it is on the other side, well, what impact does that have? If I'm showing up really enthusiastically and dynamic and entertaining and supporting and challenging, um, what impact does that have on the kids? And from my experience, having coached a lot of kids, I'd say it builds a sense of connection, builds a sense of self-confidence, helps them goal set, helps them believe in something bigger than themselves, helps them get fit, helps them learn new things, challenge themselves, maybe even develop a little bit of grit. Which in turn would correlate with them going on and being successful in education, career, and life, right? So those are the things that energize me, the things that energize others when I am able to do that in a positive way.
I love that. And you skipped ahead. You used the word impact, and then you started to say how these kids are going to apply those new values that you've instilled in them in life. So you can't even help yourself by giving the entire formula of purpose right off the bat. But that shows your passion, right? Like that shows that how much you truly believe, and not only believe in it, but embody this every day. Like when I've heard you talk, I can in a conversation, even if we don't use the words passion, impact, and application in our conversation, I've noticed you use that formula and you embed that formula in everything that you talk about. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and the thing is that they're words that outline a process, right? And happy to unpack the other two pieces.
Oh, we will. Don't worry.
The point of it, the point of it kind of merging is exactly right. Like we're one person, right? I There's not hey, there's passionate Mark and there's impact Mark and there's Mark that actually does stuff. No,
Hmm.
it's still me, right? So the reason I'm passionate about acting in that way and the reason those things energize me is because for me, when I'm able to impact people and see a positive impact, that actually has a strong correlation. And that's why purpose sits in the middle, because we're looking for the intersection between the passion and the impact.
I love it. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. So I'm your client. I'm being difficult, right? Like, you say what are you passionate about? Even though you would never ask that, right? You say you ask me that in this scenario, and I say, oh, I don't have
There's a
any
trick
passions.
question.
Yeah, right. Okay, what energizes you? And I'm in a dark place. That's why I've come to you for your help. And my answer is nothing energizes me. What's the third question to really, for lack of better terms, pry this information out of somebody so that you can get to their passion if they don't feel like anything energizes them in that moment?
Yeah, again, similarly to what's your passion, maybe like what energizes you. Not everybody has an answer for, especially if they're in a probably in a dark place or a bit lost or stuck or whatever at the time. And that's where I
Hmm.
think perspective is important. So I think I would get to some of the other questions about, well, just talk to me some things in your life that you really care about. Or who are some people that you've had really meaningful relationships with in your past? What are some things that you've stood up for and believed in, even if it was not in the school playground? And so asking some of those questions around some of the other elements of passion, and another one might be the things that they're good at, the things they add value in, the things that they maybe enjoy doing, and then give them a time horizon perspective on that, right? So, okay, well, what about when you're a kid? What about in your teens? What about in your 20s? What about in your 30s? And thinking, I can't ask that to you, of course, but we can.
Not yet.
But unless you can think of things in the future, right? And that's the other perspective. Okay, well, look, in an ideal world, what would energize you? Like, what would you be excited about? And just obviously, I'm a coach, right? So I'm coaching, I'm asking questions to see what turns up, and then I'm going to try to continue to build to get somebody to a place where they actually are like, ah, yeah, that's it, that's the thing. So it's hard to say what all of the questions would be, but that's how I would start. Looking back, maybe a little bit looking forward, or I tend to do looking forward around impact, and then honing in on some of those real life relationships, real life experiences, real life challenges. What did you do to overcome that? What were some things you did? You did something. What were some of those things you did to overcome that? Who was involved? Like, etc., etc. One of the biggest kind of value elements that folks get from some unpacking their purpose is the significantly strong correlation between purpose and resilience. And so
Mm.
for folks that are in a tough time, maybe similar to the person you're talking about, or they're really burnt out, or just are overwhelmed and kind of on the way to burnout, or just feeling really disengaged and unmotivated, and they're not really sure why. The purpose will give them the perspective, and the plan around that will give them the perspective to tap into the elements of their best self that they know to be true because they've seen it and they've done it before, which builds the resilience they need and the emotional regulation they need to manage their emotions more effectively on a day-to-day basis, which in turn enable them to sort of to climb out of these challenges, and ultimately live a longer life.
Yeah. No, I love that. And now you're starting to toy with the idea of like an internally derived purpose, but instead of like an externally imposed purpose that we have, which that's a whole nother conversation that we could talk about. But I need to point out, I think, two really, really strong concepts that you just snuck in there that if anyone's listening to this or watching the recording, they may not have picked up on. Because I think a lot of times we end up getting bogged down by this massive question, what are you passionate about? And if you can't access that idea or that concept in real time, what you just suggested, what have you been passionate about, right? If you're in a rut now, I know that you have some sort of positive memory. Let's talk about that. Or the hypothetical. Let's talk about that, right? What in an ideal world would you be passionate about? I think that's, that and a concept of, we always talk about wanting and desiring to be present, but in this sense or in this situation, it might almost benefit to take yourself out of the present moment, talk about the past, talk about the future, and talk about a way that you can find really what does energize you. I think that's amazing. I think that is one concept is super powerful. The other concept you touched on really briefly, but I think is equally as powerful, is talking about the things that you're not passionate about. I did a business exercise one time. You were like, okay, we have this marketing issue. How do we come up with it? And everyone in the room was struggling to come up with a good answer. And somebody said, well, what are the 10 things that you shouldn't do? We made a list of 50, and all of a sudden, some of those things that we shouldn't do became the solutions. So taking
Yeah.
yourself into the past and the future, and then also thinking about what won't work might lead you to what does work. Those two concepts are, in my opinion, I think were worth reiterating. So I absolutely love that.
Two other quick things that are relevant on this tools that I would use, right? One is flow, so the concept of flow, which I know you'll be familiar with, and that is like the ultimate presence, right? The ultimate presence in the moment. And there's 8 characteristics of flow, and I won't go through all of them, but if people become aware of those, one of the things we do is we have people assess different areas and domains of work and areas of their life using the concept of flow, which isn't a perfect science because flow is about in the moment, intrinsically rewarding, balancing your challenge and skill, being completely focused, kind of acting without really having to think, all these sorts of things, and knowing how you're acting is going to have an input on what you're looking to achieve. That's a tool. People can use that and kind of score things and see things objectively and think, oh, I see, well, this is missing, well, that's missing. So understanding concepts like flow can be helpful for folks as well. And then I sent you a link to the GC index, which is literally measures people's energy for impact. And that's more around how you like to contribute to things and make a difference. And there's 5 different ways people can contribute. So there's tools out there as well, in addition to asking questions. Sorry, my kids are just home, so you might hear some background noise now. 2-year-old,
No worries.
nearly 2-year-old and 4-year-old, and the 1-year-old's going to come in.
No,
Dada, here we go.
no,
Cameo. Hi,
no worries at
want to say
all.
hi? You want to come and say hi? Oh,
This,
is
Mark,
Harry.
I love this because it reminds us that we're all human.
This
What's up,
is
Harry?
Harry. Say hi. Hi, good boy. Now it's Hudson's turn. And Hudson, don't you need to pull yourself up on the desk. I can lift you up. And this is Hudson.
Hudson.
All right.
Is that a Pikachu on your hat? I love it.
Bye-bye. We'll bye. I'll come and play soon, okay? So they're not my purpose. This is an important thing about application, but they are a big motivation for me for longevity, right? I'm playing the old dad game. I want to be around as long as I can be. And when you ask people, what's your purpose? Oh, my kids. Kids aren't your purpose. How you show up for your kids is an application of your purpose. But your kids are incredibly meaningful person in your life, like relationship, people you truly care about, that you believe in, that you stand for, that you'd do anything for, right? You're passionate about, and you want to impact them. So anyway, there they are. On cue.
Yeah, that couldn't, and the way you just so eloquently threw in the formula of purpose for that, I love it. I don't know if you heard me say this. I loved that happened because I think too many podcasts and webinars and corporate jargon is thrown around these days in emails and Zoom meetings and Google Meets and everything. And you just, by that interaction, I think just reminded everyone that we're all human. I think my dog keeps walking back and forth in the background of this,
Well,
and
it's all good
we're
unless they do it like 5 more times.
yeah, no, for sure. There's a happy amount. So I before we move on to impact, I have to ask because you alluded to it, and I'm familiar with the term flow and the concept of it, as are you, obviously. But for the listener who's never heard of that or never played a high level sport or doesn't, like what do you mean? Water flowing down a river? Like what does flow mean? Can you touch on flow a little bit and maybe without going into each one in depth, like briefly just list out those 8 characteristics? I'm super curious.
Yeah, and I'm sure Will's really familiar with this as well, given his background and his focus. But yeah, so I'm not going to try and pronounce the author's name. It's Mihail Csikszentmihalyi or something like that,
Yeah.
right? It's a crazy long name. Eastern Europe, 1991 is when the book was written, I think. But the concept goes way back before that, and it's one of those timeless concepts. It's about optimal experiences. The original hypothesis was that it was actually trying to do research on happiness and found a really strong correlation between having these optimal experiences and being happy, people reporting that they're being happy. And then looking at all the data and looking at all the experiences and looking at athletes and musicians and artists and high performers, unpacking the characteristics of what an optimal experience looks like. And so, as I said, there's 8, but if you want to really, really narrow it down to 2 or 3 things, finding the right balance between challenge and skill is a key component of flow. Like you can't really be in flow. So you're kind of at the edge, right? You're pushing yourself, you're challenging your skills. If there's challenges up here and the skills are down there, you don't even know where to start. And if it's the other way around, you're bored, right? So it's kind of really being intentional about that. And doing something intrinsically rewarding, right? Something you actually just enjoy and you, for inside out, to your point, purpose isn't self-imposed. It's not an external thing. Purpose is an inside out thing. So things you find intrinsically rewarding, and they're two great starter points for getting a flow experience, which could be a optimal experience, which in work has been proven to show 500% increases in productivity. Importantly, also, you can't be flow 24/7. A flow experience is so, you're so focused at the end of it. It's amazing. You've lost track of time completely during it. And at the end of it, you lost, okay, you need a bit of R&R, right? So like all these things, you want to find some harmony between them.
Yeah. No, one, I kind of forgot that challenge skill inverse relation. So I'm glad you brought that up. I've seen that graph multiple times and you hit it on the nail, hit the head on the nail, right? If there's not enough challenge, you're bored. If there's too much challenge, you feel hopeless and you give up. But you humanized it again, which I love because I think we're in a world, blame it on social media, blame it on whatever you want to blame it on. We're in a world where everyone feels like they should be doing something, right? I should be productive. I should be getting this email out. I should be looking for a good job. I should be making this much money. And we want to be doing these productive things day in and day out, 24/7, 365. And one of the things that changed my life was realizing that my most creative moments, my most applicable solutions to problems, and my most happy experiences all started out of boredom. And we've created society, in my opinion, that really not only doesn't put value on boredom, but actually does the opposite. It devalues boredom. And boredom is just another way to say R&R. Boredom is just another way to say giving yourself time to process the things that you just did, right? Process how you got into the flow state, what you did while you were in flow state, how you came out of it. I think we all strive to be in flow state all the time, that we end up burning ourselves out and then we can never get to a flow state because we're so worried about being in a flow state. I just love that you continue to humanize these concepts and you're like, no, it's okay. You're not meant to be in this flow state all the time. Because if you are working on that edge of challenge and skill, it's tiring, right? You're developing your skills, you're understanding what's challenging you. And if you're going to try to do that 24/7, you're going to burn out pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, 100%.
I absolutely love that. So passion obviously are things that energize you, things that fill up your cup. But I think an equally important piece is the impact that those things have on the world. I'm a firm believer that no matter how individualistic we think society is becoming, we were bred for connection, love, and really just tribalness, for lack of better terms. So can you talk to me about what does impact mean to you as a word? What does it mean to you as a concept? And then maybe we'll go from there.
Yeah, so the impact in the way we think about it is making a meaningful difference that you'd be really proud to make. And there's two primary components to it, right? And this is where there's sort of like this breadth and depth to whole self, whole life perspective. So one element is inputs, and the other element is outputs, or outcomes, technically, actually. And the inputs we consider around spheres of life. Right, and so one of my business partners now, Derek Debevoise, who's got a book out called Going First, uses this creates this model called Spheres of Impact, and it's just a really simple way of thinking of 6 areas of your life, and it's a little arc like this, and there's a foundational element. Foundational is self, friends, and family. It sits below the line. It's there. It's fundamental. You've got to take care of yourself in order to take care of the other people that you have the most meaning to you, which is usually friends and family. And then above the line is work, which is your role, the workplace, which is anything else you're involved with around the culture, employee resource groups, anything else that has meaning to you around your role. So work, workplace, community, and money. So they're the 6 spheres. So in order to assess the impact you're currently having, you look at your inputs. How am I showing up in each of these areas? You can give yourself a score of 1 to 10 on them. You can list things you're doing well. List even tiny little things, making somebody smile, making somebody laugh, sending somebody an email that is just saying you're thinking about them. Like, little things matter. Because if everybody did one of those little things, everyone in the world did one of those little things every day, that's 8 billion little things, right? Every big problem in the world is caused by human behavior. So don't discount the little stuff. So firstly, yes, think whole self, whole life, but catch the positives, catch the little things you're doing and assess how you feel you're doing. And then identify some areas you might want to focus a little bit more time on. So spheres is about understanding whole life, whole self, whole life, to take the pressure off, not put the pressure on. You don't have to be 100% in every sphere of your life every single day. That would be like being in flow. You just can't do it. So look for this season you're in. Which are the areas that are most important to me right now, and how am I showing up? What am I doing? So that's the input. The outcomes from impact, and the outcomes are what project forward the direction you're going, right? If you like, it's your personal vision statements in terms of the impact you'd be really proud to have. We ask people to take a 10-year view on this, and we ask them to write 3 sentences, which again is off the back of doing a number of activities and a number of conversations. But the 3 sentences reflect impact for me, we, and world. Right now, this is a projection forward of what I want this impact to be in 10 years' time, because 10 years' time probably going to be true beyond there, but it's close enough that it's still tangible. So impact on me would be having been the best version of myself. Like, how do I want to feel? And why would I feel that way? So that would be a sentence for that. It gives you some direction around, don't forget to take care of yourself and also take care of others. Your we is about the outcomes you want to have on the people you've chosen to surround yourself with the most, right? So for me, that would be, I help people reframe their perspective. I help them tap into their talents. I help them sort of practice those things to increase their confidence and belief that they can just go forward and be the ultimate version of themselves. That would be very close to my we sentence. And then the world sentence is anything beyond your we. By definition, beyond your we. It could be something you're doing in the community, causes like you're supporting with your paddleboarding, movements, or just literally the ripple effect from your we. Because if my we is 200 people and your we is 200 people and all my we is 200 people, I'm having a direct impact on 200 people and an indirect impact on 40,000 people. That's pretty awesome. Well, imagine if everybody did that. And I can count on less than a couple of fingers out of hundreds of people I've done this with, how many people have ever actually really intentionally articulated the impact they want to have. So that's the directional element of purpose. It's often what people think purpose is. Purpose is doing good. Purpose is writing checks. Purpose is donating or being a volunteer. That's an application of purpose. Why do you do those things? Because I want to change a child's life. I want to level the playing field. I want to see people treated equally. Those things are impact. And that's what we want people to articulate.
I love that. Yet again, you've humanized it, right? Like, what is your passion? That's a strong, scary question that ends up, if you don't have a really strong answer, like you said, maybe less than a handful of people do, we end up like closing off and then we end up saying we don't have any passions, which isn't true. Same thing for impact. I think you just described it perfectly. Like, what impact do you want to have on this world is this larger than life question that people ask. And we assume that if we don't have a really, really clear answer of, I want to end world hunger, right? Or I want to make sure there's clean drinking water for all 8 billion people in the world. If that's not the impact we want to have, we're sometimes in society, we're told that, then what's the point, right? And then we curl up. Same thing, right? We have that negative feedback loop come in and be like, well, my impact isn't big enough. So what's the point? So now I want to have no impact on the world. And you took the words right out of my mouth when you said ripple effect. That's our mission statement too, right? Change one life so they can change many. There's no way that Mark and Steve can touch all 8 billion lives in the world. But if we, like you said, if we can touch 200 and those can touch all 200 of those touch 200 more, I'm not great at math, but I think that's 400,000 immediately.
It's 40,000.
Right? 40,000. There you go.
Either, but
The British are better at math than us, so we're okay. So
that's why I got out of banking, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're a banker. This isn't fair. But it's that if I have one life mission or what my passion impact is, and the impact I want to have on the world is honestly, I'm processing this in real time, Mark. So forgive me, but really, I just had a conversation with my sister today. She's in the Peace Corps. She's in West Africa right now. And she was feeling down, right? Like she lives in a remote village. And it's like, well, I haven't, this project, they're building a well. And she's like, I don't know if the project's going to get done. And it's not. And she actually used the word impact. And I said, what about all the little things that you've done, all the little lives that you've touched, all the little ripple effects that you may not even know you had on people that then they went and did something good. And then that person that they affected did something good. It was a really beautiful conversation we got to have. And I feel like that's just another example of what you're talking about. I'm curious if somebody, again, we're on a coffee date. I love this is the third coffee date we've had in this hypothetical conversation. If I say, Mark,
so
what impact?
Up now.
I know. Mark, what impact do you
imagine what I'd be like without caffeine?
Dude, yeah, it's scary to think, but what impact would you want on the world, or what is the impact you hope to have on this world?
For me,
yeah.
Well, it's for me, it's actually largely an extension of that we impact, right? Because I'm in the if you like coaching and human performance space, I want to reframe people's perspective, help them tap into their talents, increase their belief in the things they truly care about, and then kind of go forward and never give up on that. And because it's all grounded in purpose, I know, one, because humans generally want to grow and improve and do good. That's just generally people's nature. And that's what I believe, one of my beliefs, that I know just from doing that with one person, that's going to have a ripple effect. So my world impact actually is the same as my we impact, but it just has a big number on it, right? And so I think when I first did it under the Purpose Fused banner, because I've had this kind of, I call it a one-page purpose. So it's your best self-life on a page, essentially. That it was a 10,000 people number. And I'm going to increase that. I'm not going to directly coach or directly serve 10,000 people, but I know now, having worked with a few hundred people and having indirectly, if you like been in front of 1,500 people or something, just from the conversations I've had and the feedback I've got and the surveys I've done with the people that I actually did coach, I already know that number will be something I'll be able to hit in a couple of years' time. So for me, it is about people passing this gift of purpose on in a really intentional way and helping elevate other people's lives. And that's really what my impact is, what that would build towards, like the really big picture, intangible kind of world impact that would build towards is my view of what I want the world to look like. I call it an aspirational dream, and that is that I just wish the world was full of people that were connected through vitality and purpose. I know that's not possible. I know it's not ever going to happen. But if I can impact a few, like 10,000+ people myself, and I know there's ripple effect, I've made a big dent in that. At least if everybody I had impacted lived in one place, imagine what that place would look like. And actually, AI could really do that for me. That would be really cool. I need to do that. But that's the point, right? And so it's the ripple effect for me to get to this place where there is just a lot more vitality and purpose in the world, because the world will be such a better place.
I love that. Vitality and purpose. I just wrote those two words down, and well, you can rest easy tonight knowing that you've had an impact on me today. So I thank you. I thank you for that. And this recording, this conversation that we're having will definitely have a ripple effect. So we have purpose being defined by passion and impact. But you and I can't remember. I can't remember if we talked about the Medici effect before, and if we haven't, or to explain it for people, the Medici effect is really this intersection of creativity and practicality. Say you have a problem and you're offered a solution that's really creative. No one's thought of it before, but it's not practical. It's going to be hard to adopt that solution into everyday use in society. The opposite is true for creative solutions. Say you have a problem, you have a really creative solution, but it's not practical. Did I just say that? You have a practical solution that's not creative, people aren't going to want to adopt it. You have a creative solution that's not practical, people aren't going to be able to adopt it. So the Medici effect is this perfect intersection between not only solutions people feel drawn to because they're creative and aesthetically pleasing, but they're practical enough to where I can actually apply it into my life right now. So my questions for you around application is, why was application so important, or important enough to become part of the purpose formula? And then how do you apply application into your life, into your business, and into your purpose?
Yeah. The reason being is, if it was just a purpose discovery model, based on our definition, it would be the intersection between passion and impact. All right, awesome. I've discovered my purpose. My purpose statement is to create opportunities that inspire people to go forward as the ultimate version of themselves. So that's my purpose. That's amazing. It's great that I've got it. People feel, they're like, oh, it feels so good when they've come up with a purpose statement of 15 words or less that really summarizes their best self on a page, pointed towards the difference they want to make. Amazing. But purpose can't live in a vacuum. Like, okay, well, that's cool, but actually kind of need a plan, right? So the world piece, the world full of vitality and purpose, that's where I want to get to. That's kind of the ultimate like destination. The impact is a bit more tangible in terms of the impact I'm going to have people along the way. I want some ambitions in there, some goals. 3 years, we work on 3-year life ambitions, 3 to 4, that may or may not be the 3 or 4 areas that are most important to somebody, but they are the 3 or 4 areas they want to be most intentional about their time and energy about. And then we identify their best self principles, that up to 7 things that would be the behavioral statements that reflect them at their absolute best, and 3 areas of focus that they focus on every day in order to live their purpose. My 3 focus areas are inspire, connect, advance, right? So if I inspire somebody every day, connect with somebody, and you've connected us here, and then advance, just help someone take a step forward, like give them a little nudge, give them a pull, put my arm around them, whatever it is they need to take a step forward. It's been a good day. So focus simplifies the complex and enables me to just sort of prioritize things. So that's a plan. That's a 1-page purpose. Once you've got your 1-page purpose, you've got to do something with it. Right, it's great. Now that's a brilliant piece of paper on a page, like, and you can frame it and put it on the wall and be really proud about it. But what's the point if you're not going to do anything with it? So application is all about that. Application is about taking the big picture plan and creating some 90-day priorities, creating some 12-month commitments, things that are going to move the needle and get you there. It's about focusing them on the right season of time and on the right spheres of your life, not trying to do everything at one go. It's about building a support team. There's so much power in involving people in your goals, right, and supporting them. You know this from the from the fitness world. So whether it's having the trainer or the coach or the mentor, or just having a support team of people that will challenge you or encourage you or help you think differently, etc. And then what are the things you want to learn and grow at? Like, based upon this plan I've come up with, what would be some more knowledge I could acquire? What would be some new experiences that I can push myself a little bit more, because I'm going to learn through those. I'm going to fail, but I'm going to fix, and then I'm going to get better. So really, the whole second half of the coaching and the programs that we do, having helped people come up with a purpose and a plan, a one-page purpose, is actually then embedding it. And that is obviously the hard part. But what makes it very effective is that that one-page purpose has so much meaning for people that now is fueling them to want to make the behavior change they need to start living on purpose. And living on purpose is all about intentional application of that big picture plan into day-to-day life.
I could say I'm I'm kind of speechless right now. I absolutely love that. You just did it again. You said something so nonchalantly, and I don't think recognized the power of it. This is why I love doing these and interviewing people, because I just get to sit and absorb and really think about it. But and correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a clear difference between having a purpose and living with purpose. You just turned an adjective or a noun, I don't know, again, not good with numbers, not good with English, into a verb, right? So living with purpose innately has an application of purpose in it. Versus it's great to have a purpose, but I like to say to some of the people I coach, so what, now what? So what? You have a purpose, now what? If you have a purpose that says one thing, but you go live a completely different lifestyle, then there's no point in even doing the purpose exercise. So I think the distinction of having a purpose versus living with a purpose is so powerful. I love that you use those words.
Yeah, and you've got to have one to live it. You've got to, you're right. I mean, I always say you've got to live it to give it, which is why I have my own purpose, my own one-page purpose, and every activity that I would coach anyone with and unpack, I've done multiple times. But you can't live a purpose unless you've articulated it. And so you have to do the self-reflection work and the deep self-awareness. It's deep, broad perspective kind of work around self-awareness to be able to unearth those elements that make your purpose up, upon which then you can create a plan. And then you can get really into the stuff that's all the rational stuff that you probably already knew, but you just haven't got the perspective to prioritize it and make it meaningful enough to do anything about it.
Exactly right. So I can just sit down for 5 minutes by myself in a room and figure out my purpose and live in that purpose and be fine, right?
I mean, look, there's loads of books you can read. There's loads of books you can read. You can go to purposefuse.com. There's I write a lot of stuff, too much probably. Videos you can watch, podcasts you can listen to. You can educate yourself on this stuff. Yeah, can you do it in 5 minutes? No. I bet some people could, because they've already thought about it, right? The shortest amount of time I can get somebody to a really meaningful purpose statement would be a couple of hours, because we have to do some self-reflection work, and I can guide them through it. We can kind of get there from scratch, from nothing, right? But there's no plan around it. And even that's beneficial, because having that sense of purpose already enables you to see things differently. You look at your calendar differently. So you're going to start changing just because of that. But if you're in purpose is about intentionality, right? It's the thing that drives your intentionality in a meaningful way for the things that matter most to you. And that's why the planning piece is important. So there's a lot of value to spending more than 5 minutes on it.
Awesome. No, and the reason I asked it that way, obviously I was being a bit sarcastic, but I feel like a lot of people will sit down because someone says, yeah, figure out your purpose. And they'll sit down with a journal, with a cup of tea, in the corner of a room burning incense. And it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do this journaling exercise, and I'm going to come out in 15 minutes and I'm going to have a life purpose. And I don't know what guru instilled that thought process in half of society, but I think that's how half of society operates. And I just wanted to make it abundantly clear with your answer that that's not how it goes. And it's gonna cause the same thing about these larger than life questions. What is your impact? What is your passion? If we feel like we're supposed to be able to find our purpose in a matter of minutes and we don't, which will happen, we won't, then we all of a sudden again curl back into that ball because, well, now I'm a failure because I couldn't accomplish the thing that I thought I could accomplish. And in
Yeah.
reality, it's just you didn't, it's not that you didn't accomplish it, it's that you didn't even give yourself the chance to accomplish it. And
No,
I
you
think
have
that's
to
a really
follow.
powerful concept.
You have to follow a process, and that's why there's this purpose paranoia and purpose pressure and all these other P's you can put around it that are reasons that people maybe don't do that work, right? But here's the hack, right? If you haven't got 2 hours, or you don't want to read the book or listen to the podcast or talk to me, then the intersection between passion, impact, and application, right, is inspiration, fulfillment, and happiness. Right now, instead of having a purpose and a plan, just look for more of that stuff. Find it, do it. And you will be living more on purpose. It will just be a little less intentional, a little less organized, a little less structured. You won't have the same clarity, but you'll have a better life. Do more things that make you smile and make you happy. Do more things that are fulfilling, rewarding, that you're proud about. Do things that excite you or even inspire you. Find those things, do more of those things, do more of those things with people you care about, and you won't go far wrong.
I love it. Again, you said something powerful that I want to just reiterate. The correct, I think I remember these, but I need your help. The intersection between passion and impact is inspiration, correct? What is the intersection between impact and application?
Passion and impact. I'll give you the model actually. You can put it in the show notes. Yeah. So
Yeah,
passion and impact would be inspiration, and then you've got. I'm pointing, but you can't see it because it's just below,
yeah.
just down there. Look.
Oh, there it is.
Passion and application would be happiness, right? And application and impact. Oh, hang on, I'm on the camera. There we go.
Yeah.
Application and impact is the fulfillment element. And again, it's not to overthink those because they all kind of mesh together in the middle, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes I'm happy about something because it's fulfilling, right, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But if you start just listing out things that make me happy, things that I find really fulfilling, things that inspire, excite me, and just
Mhm.
start doing more of that, integrating more of that into your life and your conversations and your relationships. Um, that's a big improvement on not doing it.
Love it. You mentioned purposefused.com a second ago. My question is going to be, where can people find you or reach you if they're interested? And then after you're done that, if you want to share a final thought or a closing statement, I would love that. And again, I really, really appreciate you making the time for this. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. If I find myself in a new career, it's going to be interviewing people because they say curiosity killed the cat, but I'm the most curious person I know. I just love asking
That's
questions.
only
So,
because cats keep jumping off trees and houses, right? Because they climb too high. So yeah, don't worry.
right?
Curiosity is the fuel of learning, right? Yeah. So purposefuse.com. There's a bunch of resources there, insights, podcast, etc. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I push out 2 or 3 things at least a week and videos, and this month's all about vitality, so it's very, very much aligned to our conversation, Steve. So Mark Griffin, Purpose Fused on LinkedIn, and that's it. And I let anybody that wants to just have a conversation, and even so, how do I find more happiness and fulfillment? Like I love chatting with people. I love supporting people. Obviously, it's a big part of what I do. So that's how people can find me. And my only final thought, I've said already like way too much. It's really hard to shut me up. So it just thanks for the conversation. Thanks for the conversations we've had before. And I just have a lot of appreciation for what you're doing to support people, both building awareness and support and commitment, around their own physical wellness, which is such a critical part of the whole kind of mental, emotional, physical, spiritual space of just living a good life. So thanks for having me, and thanks for anyone that listens and reaches out.
Thank you, Mark. This was an absolute pleasure, and I'm excited to continue our chats offline. This was great. Until next time on the Health Is Show, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.